Welcome to this special one-off hour of broadcast. We are Tomorrow Makers. I'm Sophie.
And I'm Laurie. Today we are going to talk about making it in the media industry, and we have insider tips straight from the industry.
Brilliant. Coming up today we have BBC Radio 1's Jordan North, you really won't want to miss that, Marion Wilkes from Sunderland Futures, and Betty Ball from Speak Up Sunderland. Just in case you're unaware of what Speak Up Sunderland is, it's a brilliant podcast which helps promote the local voices and projects around the city. It's a podcast made in Sunderland, about Sunderland, for Sunderland.
Still not convinced? Let's hear some of their best bits.
Hi, I'm Betty Ball.
And I'm Stevie B.
He's a Magam.
And she's from South Shields.
And this is the very first Speak Up Sunderland, a weekly podcast that is about you.
If you live in Sunderland and you've got stories to share... Don't laugh about Sunderland. This will be very short, mind. If you live in Sunderland and you've got stories to share, then this is your podcast.
Or, if you're listening from outside of Sunderland, hi!
Hello!
Here is what's happening in our little British city by the sea.
Oh, don't start singing, man.
Under the sea.
I know.
Today's episode of Speak Up Sunderland is part of our second live event at the Peacock in, surprise, surprise, Sunderland.
We talk about all the time about how passionate we are about Sunderland and being born and bred and so on, but I've always loved my music. Did anyone watch the Netflix show Sunderland Till I Die?
Yeah.
Now, do you remember the theme tune for it?
Yeah.
How would you like to hear it live? I'll hand you over to the writer and performer of that song.
Yes, my name's Marty. I wrote a song. It was on an album I made in 2015. It's called Shipyards. I wrote about my granddad who worked at Austin Pickers Gill, and unfortunately he passed away a couple of years ago. But he was a very quiet man, a very dignified man. He worked extremely hard all of his life. I hope that I can be even half the man he is, or was. On the river where they used to build the boat.
From episode 1 to where we are now, my mind has been completely blown. Right from when we did the City Hearts episode.
Now I really like and happy in Sunderland because I got support from City Heart. Now I can go to school, English class. I feel my life now is better. Nobody can control me like before. Someone, they control my life, they control my thing. But now I love Sunderland.
So if you do anything else today, Google human trafficking, get some statistics, find out about it and start speaking about it, start having conversations about it. It's that simple. It's not the happiest of conversations. Just do what you can, where you are, with what you've got, and that's how we put an end to this.
All your life you worked your fingers to the bone.
Right from when Sunderland decided to choose what tattoo we'll put on your back.
Oh, God! It's like someone's got...
They sound like bedroom noises to me.
It's like getting cut. Oh, God, that hurts. I've got cold sweat.
Well, Stevie, I have to say you haven't scratched your nipples yet, so you're not that bad.
Because I can't move my hands together, they're glued together.
It looks like like frog spawn, like the loads of little dots.
I don't really hear this, like...
To like the opening of the Northern Spire Bridge where
Broke up here.
everyone turned out.
We knew that this is the first day that it's going to be open to the public for the first time, so we wanted to make a part of it, really.
Part of the history.
Yeah.
They've done a very good job, fantastic job, really. Yeah.
Very good job, I would say.
It's so shiny.
Shiny.
Shiny new.
I'm calling out.
And then, like you say, a bit of history going under the Roga Pier, one of the first groups to go down that historical landmark of Sunderland. What's some of the best bits, like, of your childhood down here?
We had to clean the windows outside which was terrifying when you think of it. Somebody aged 10 to 12 climbing out onto the parapet on the lantern.
And those are just a little tip of the iceberg. God knows what else we've been up to.
And if you could see me now.
I'm proud to be getting out this car, walking along that road, and walking into that reception, and being the voice of Sunderland. So before we go in, one thing I need to say. Thank you to everyone in Sunderland.
Oh, I didn't do that.
Because without them, we wouldn't be here. big love to everyone who has watched, shared, liked, been a part, or has got in contact. Thank you, because without you, we wouldn't now be on the BBC.
So whether it's people that we've come to see, or you've been part of the live, or you've even just listened once, thank you very much.
Wanna go?
No, I'm scared. Oh, well, let's go.
Come on, let's go. For them, let's go.
Oh, wait, Barley. Did it slam me door?
Oh, what? God damn it, that was a nice moment.
Proud.
Some great highlights from a truly amazing podcast there. Coming up next, we have an interview with one of the presenters, Betty Ball, but first, some music.
Hey, wasn't Betty Ball also a local Sparky?
She was actually. Here she is talking to me just the other day about her podcast. So, how did you get into the media industry?
How did I get in the media industry? This is quite a good question, actually. It was through a beauty pageant, actually. I was going for Miss Sunderland and I didn't win. I came second, and the beauty pageant that I was in was sponsored by Global. And the owner, well, the manager of Global at the time, was in the audience. And at the end, he pulled me to one side and said, I'm really impressed with who you are, what you do. I've been following you. I think you'll be a fantastic radio presenter. Have you ever thought about it? And I was like, no. He went, well, you should. Here's your card. And it went from there. And because I wasn't ready to go on commercial radio, they went, come to Spark and start. And that's how it happened.
So I know you're part of Speak Up Sunderland. Could you tell us what that is?
Okay, Speak Up Sunderland is a local podcast that is made for the people of Sunderland, by the people of Sunderland, and locally produced in Sunderland. It is I would say, a platform for people in Sunderland who don't normally have a voice that can be heard. We give them the platform to heard to thousands of people. That's what Speak Up Sunderland is.
Brilliant. And what advice would you give to people who want a career in media?
Thickest skin in the world. Have the thickest skin in the world and take the rose tinted glasses off, because it's not easy. And honestly, the more you get kicked down, the stronger you get. And that's the only advice I can give them. But keep going. If you've got the passion, if you've got the drive, if you've got the positivity, and you know you're good, believe in yourself, because if you don't, nobody else will.
Brilliant. And how would you suggest getting contacts in the industry?
Ooh, getting contacts in the industry. Networking. Being a little spy on social media. That is a really big help. And not being afraid to open your mouth to people. If you know somebody, or you say you recognise somebody from a social media post, or you know somebody who knows somebody, don't be afraid to go and ask that person to say, can you introduce me to this person? It's a bit weird if you go up to somebody and say, can I have this person's email, because that person you're going to be sending that email to will have no idea who you are, and it's a bit creepy. Try and make connections through that. If you can do it face to face, fantastic. If you have a middle person that can almost buffer you up, do it. But apart from that, I would just be as gutsy and as ballsy as you possibly can, because my famous saying, shy Ben's getting out. So there you are. That's how I do it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I think that's everything.
That was really great interview with Betty. You're listening to Tomorrow Makers, still with me, Laurie.
And me, Sophie. So if you were tuned in just now to hear our interview with Betty Ball, she made some really great points and gave some lovely advice at the end about getting into media industries. Remember to stay tuned, as we have plenty of other guests coming up with some similarly great advice, including a local media production company, Fingers and Fringe, and Jordan North from BBC Radio 1. You won't want to miss it.
Next, though, we have interviewed Marion Wilkes from Sunderland Futures.
Sunderland Futures offers careers advice and guidance to students and graduates at the University of Sunderland. Here she is on Spark. Could you tell us more about employability and some general advice about how to make yourself more employable? Maybe some interview advice too?
Well, employability is huge on the university's agenda. This university is really committed to helping all of our students to hopefully increase their employability prospects. I think every student that comes to the university is investing massively, time, money, energy, and that's about wanting to get into the type of graduate job that they're aiming for when they graduate. So I think it's really important that students engage with activities that are going on across the university that are all around employability, and that's where Sunderland Futures comes in. That's the name that this university gives to a whole range of activities that are happening across the university. So making sure students know what's happening, making sure they are up to speed with the kind of opportunities that are available, engaging with as many of those as they can, getting as many skills, developing skills and experience in a whole range of areas that they can then use in order to evidence when they're applying for jobs, and using those experiences to feed into going for interviews as well. Very often in interviews, employers will want students to give specific examples, evidence when they've carried out particular activities, how they've used certain skills, and so being engaged with Sunderland Futures activities is really one way of doing that, and using our service to help with things like interview preparation and so on. But yeah, this university's got a huge commitment to helping our students in terms of employability, whatever subject area they're studying. Students need to have some ideas of the kind of things they want to do, explore those, research them, and then tap into all of the activities that they can in order to develop relevant employability skills specific to the occupational area that they're interested in.
What do Futures offer students for ideas on either work or uni courses?
We help in a number of ways. We have a portal on our website where we advertise volunteering opportunities, and volunteering is a brilliant way for students to get some experience that might be related to their degree discipline. It might be related to the type of job or career that they eventually want to go into. It might be just about doing something that's different, that helps them to develop skills like communication, teamwork, time management, and so on. We also advertise paid part-time jobs. Sometimes for students it's important to help them with their studies to actually earn some extra cash, so maybe getting involved in a part-time job. And again, never ever underestimate the value of any part-time work or volunteering that you do as a student. You're developing essential skills and experiences through that. Graduate jobs that we advertise as well. And alongside that, we offer a whole range of things, including professional mentoring, work shadowing. As part of being involved in those things, students might then apply for the Sunderland Professional Award. So there's all kinds of things that we can help our students with. And it's just about students having an awareness that's there, having a look at the kind of things that we're offering and running, and then applying for anything that they're interested in. And in terms of if students see jobs that they're interested in, then they're going to have to apply. So using our service to help them to make the best representation of themselves via applications, CVs. In terms of study, sometimes our students who might be coming to the end of their course might be interested in postgraduate study. So it may be about looking at where they might go after their degree, what types of postgrad study are relevant to them, or are there any short courses that perhaps they could dip into while they're a student that might help them with future career aspirations and directions.
It was great talking to Marion. We'll hear the second part of that interview later in the show, so stay tuned. And welcome back. You are listening to Tomorrow Makers.
Now I think it's time to get back to Marion Wilkes from Sunderland Futures team.
What do you know about opportunities for media placements more specifically, and connections Futures has with established companies?
In terms of for media students, I know that at the moment we've got some opportunities that we're advertising that are probably specific to our media students. Tyne&Wear TV, we've got really strong links with them. We are involved with them in terms of promoting and advertising some placement opportunities for both students and graduates, and that is a connection that is long established and hopefully will continue. We also on a regular basis promote projects that might not be specifically with media organisations, but where perhaps through volunteering our media students might be involved in photography, videography, radio, etc., in a whole range of different roles with different voluntary charitable organisations. The university has, through academics and through Sunderland Futures, links with established media organisations, and it's really about students raising their awareness of those, dipping into those, developing contacts, nurturing those contacts. I think it's really important that particularly our media students develop good networks. So yes, some established links that we make our students aware of, but I think particularly media students need to be very proactive in terms of developing contacts as well, and using any opportunity to develop and nurture those contacts.
I noticed you used the word network. That word is thrown around quite a lot.
Yeah.
Could you tell us more about what that is and how it helps?
It's about making contacts, making links with perhaps people who may work in a particular role that you might be interested in, or in a particular sector, a particular organisation. It's about developing and nurturing those contacts. Through networking, students can use that to learn about perhaps someone's journey into the job role that eventually they aspire to themselves, and can learn a huge amount from that. Network links, sometimes it's about knowing somebody who knows somebody, and I think it's really important that we each of us reflect on the network that we currently have, and sometimes I think we underestimate the personal links that we've got, about seeking ways to develop new links. And there are opportunities throughout students' time on their course to meet new contacts. So if, for example, you have a speaker, so in November there's the Creative Industries Week in the university that's specific to our arts and creative industry students. Throughout Creative Industries Week there are going to be all sorts of employers, people who are working in particular roles coming onto campus. I think it's important that students take advantage of that and network with as many of those as they can. So it might be about introducing yourself, finding if you can link with them on LinkedIn or whatever other networking site or social media site that they use, following up on that. So maybe afterwards contacting that person saying it was lovely to meet you, it was really interesting speaking to you. So developing, nurturing that contact, and that's part of making first steps into perhaps developing a professional network.
What was it like for you when you were a student, and if there was a Futures in the past?
Things were different. I have to say, when I was a student, I probably wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I graduated. I studied in Leeds and was able to access through my university what was then their career service, and they were really helpful and supportive. They helped me think through the kind of things that I potentially could do with my degree and to think about what was right for me. I think some of the stages that I had to go through are the same as our graduating students now, having an awareness of what's out there, understanding self, making the connection between what's available, what's right for me. I think what we shouldn't be scared of is that the decisions that students make now as they come to graduation aren't going to be, to some extent, their life choices, but their choices will change over time. The decisions they make now might change in a year or two's time based on experience, based on the types of opportunities that they are that they access, their awareness levels of the kind of things that are out there. So there are similarities, there are differences, but I think increasingly it's about helping our students be aware of the opportunities that are around and helping them to be self-aware and reflect on what's right for them, and taking advantage of everything that they can, while they're students, to help them make those choices.
So that was Marion Wilkes from Sunderland Futures team. If you need any careers help at the University of Sunderland, make sure you even contact her for Sunderland Futures website. That's amazing, and will definitely provide you with help and support you'll need with your future career.
Up next, we have Fingers and Fringe. They're a local media production company who have worked with the likes of Ainsley Harriott. This is a small snippet from our interview. Make sure to watch the full thing on our social media pages.
A production company, essentially at the heart of it, that is what it is, but over time it's grown. So we work mainly in comedy as well. So we produce comedy content for TV, radio, online.
For the rest of the interview, make sure to follow us on social media. Also, look on our Facebook page and go to their show at The Stand on Monday the 18th of November.
Yeah, I think you'll definitely want to check that out. It sounds brilliant. Coming up, we have interviews with Scott McIntosh and BBC Radio 1's Jordan North.
We are Tomorrow Makers.
Hey Tomorrow Makers, I'm Ellie and I am the video producer for this show. We are here talking to Scott, who is a videographer. So do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Hi there, I'm a videographer. My main focus is on small businesses, so businesses that don't think they have the opportunity to get video content, but realistically in the day of social media, any form of business can be assisted with some form of video production. Both me and a friend of mine came together to form our own business, Default Picture, which we're currently in the setup for. Our main target at the moment is small business. However, we also do make our own short films and both have goals to be into the film industry as well. But our main focus of work at the moment is videography.
So what is the most recent project you've worked on?
The most recent project I've worked on, for videography, I've worked with a camp group, the International Summer Camp, also known as Camp Cooper. I applied there to be a counselor, both for looking after kids and teaching film. However, I ended up being the camp's videographer towards the end of the course, towards the end of the camp term. And now outside, I've been editing their footage and they want me to come back, edit more footage for them and update their web presence with more footage to show what the camp's about. But for film, I have worked on a horror feature film called The Tooth Fairy 2, which was shot in just 7 days. Currently, the first one is out in HMV if you want to find it. That is Tooth Fairy.
I will say I have watched it as well, and I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. It was incredible, really.
I touched nothing on that. I didn't do anything in the first one, but the second one, that was me.
Just announce your involvement with the first one. I was there for the sequel.
Yes, I was there for the sequel. This is going to be the money-making one.
So, in terms of qualifications, what exactly do you have for film?
Well, for qualifications, I am a honours student in filmmaking and screenwriting, which for me personally, for an experience, helped to build up my confidence. I learned a lot more about filmmaking and it was a great confidence booster. But even outside of uni, I'm also applying for other courses. I've applied and been accepted for a camera assistant course because, again, I'm interested in that, for feature films, additional kind of work like that. So it just shows you that even after you leave qualifications that you can apply for more courses and that you don't need to have a degree to apply for those courses, but it can help. Always still learning new tricks.
So you mentioned that you worked with a summer camp as well as a horror film. What do you think is the weirdest job that you've had?
Oof, that's a tough one. Both had very unique experiences. The summer camp was a fantastic experience, but it was quite unique in the sense of attendance. All the kids, because it's between 7 to 17, the majority of them were international students. That's like Spanish, French, had a few Japanese. It was a really unique experience to be meeting a variety of people from across the globe and try to work on a project together, because we all had to come together to make a film in just under a week, which was a very fun experience. For myself, I've traveled a bit for work, and it's just always amazing to meet new people from around the world to learn more about cultures. For this feature film, I never expected to shoot a feature in just a week. It was very intense. I had very little sleep, didn't eat much, but I had great fun. It's Tooth Fairy 2. I mean, I don't know what you expect from the film, but it was great fun shooting it, and I know it's going to be an amazing film to watch.
Oh, I cannot wait. I absolutely cannot wait.
Interesting interview with Scott there. We'll hear more from Scott and Ellie after a little bit of music. Now back to Scott and Ellie.
So what would you say is the most valuable experience you've had? You mentioned that you've travelled for work.
With my university, they told us early on that we could go through Erasmus to go to another country to learn, but then it kind of vanished for a while and we never heard anything about it. But it wasn't until a friend of mine, and again, don't know if any listeners who are at uni might want to check this for themselves to apply to them. A year after you graduate, you can still apply for Erasmus. So that means they'll pay some amount to let you go to another place and organise that. So a friend of mine organised a job in Berlin for me. It was 6 months. That's amazing. And no one in my uni had done this because everyone just presumed you had to be in university to do that. This job in Berlin, and that was the first time I ended up working on a feature film just by chance, because the person I was working for as a production assistant knew this director who was doing a feature film. That was my first feature credit, and that was all by chance. Berlin was the first big one for me. That's kind of led to more opportunities.
So you've mentioned that a lot of your jobs kind of do come through word of mouth and networking. Would you say that's where like the majority of your jobs come from?
Depending where you are in the world, everyone has different things. For instance, for a while, my last job I got, which was based in Norwich, they use a site called Mandy, which is like opportunity-based, normally last minute, and a lot of that is in England, and myself being in Scotland is the most useful. But I didn't realise till recently, like Scotland, they have a book. I can't remember what exactly the name of it is, but a lot of their contacts are through there. But every country has their own things. But for me personally, it's been either through Mandy recently, and funny enough, Facebook. There's a lot of Facebook communities that offer jobs for acting and film work.
I feel like this is a perfect opportunity for us to just slyly plug our Facebook page there. Tomorrow Makers on Facebook. So in terms of where you want to go, like what would be a big media goal for you?
For media, not even just film, but media in general, involves TV, film, the lot. It's quite opportunity based. No matter how big or small, like the one I did in Berlin was quite a highbrow film. Then I went straight to quite a jokey horror film, and I love both those experiences. But I think for myself, there's like lots of little goals. Like I like the idea of building up the videography thing into a bigger business, but at the same time, I do want to work in more feature films. Maybe building up further down the camera department to maybe someday be a cinematographer for a feature film. But even on my side projects, I keep making my own short films as well. So normally I write and direct those as well as I am filming them. As long as I'm in the media industry and progressively going up and meeting new people and maybe going to a few new countries, I'll definitely be enjoying that.
We want one piece of advice for you for someone like us and like our listeners who want to get into the media business, want to break through into the kind of industry. What would be one piece of advice that you would give them?
There's obviously the usual ones of networking is key. Obviously take the opportunities that you can get, not to stress too much about it. Like obviously, if you want to push yourself and to find it,
easier said than done.
At the same time, it is very opportunity-based, and you'd be surprised what opportunities can come around. And like, it does all this depends in your area. Like sometimes they look for very experienced people, then sometimes they're willing to give shots. It all just depends. So I would say never compare yourself to others. Just wait, and as long as you feel like you're on the right course, then it's all good.
Well, that is all the questions we have for you. So thank you very much for being on our show.
No, thank you so much for having me.
And good luck with the Tooth Fairy film. I look forward to watching it.
Oh yes, red carpet for that one.
Oh, amazing. I'm sure we'll be invited to the premiere.
I'll see what I can do. I'll chat to a few people.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much, Scott, and good luck in the future.
Okay, thanks again. Bye.
No worries.
Wow, it was a really great interview from Scott. Super helpful info for people who think university just isn't quite for them. In case you missed the beginning of that interview, Scott is a videographer and makes short films.
He's done some brilliant work. Coming up, we have our interview with BBC Radio 1's Jordan North with fellow Tomorrow Maker Charlotte.
Can I just butt in there real quick? I know we've been teasing to this interview for the entire show, but I'm gonna make you wait longer, because I have a song I want to play before that. This is South of the Border by Ed Sheeran.
So after being rudely interrupted by my co-host Sophie, here is the interview with Jordan North with our own fellow Tomorrow Maker Charlotte.
Fine, you can play the interview this time. Over to Charlotte.
How and why did you get involved with community radio?
I first got involved with community radio when I was 16 at a station in Preston where I lived called Preston FM. So that was the first time I heard about community radio. But I got like a qualification from that. I think it was like an MVQ. And it made me realise that I wanted to work in radio even more, but it made me realise how important community radio is in local areas. It's not just for people that listen to it, but for people that get involved, the volunteers from all different backgrounds. Some of them had disabilities, some people didn't work, some people had mental health problems, so they came to community radio. It really helped them. When I was looking at going to university, I seen that had a community station that was also a student radio station, so I was like, well, I want to do radio at uni, and I've already worked in community radio, and I know how good it is, so it's kind of it was a big selling point for me.
So how do you think community radio helped you get to where you are today? Obviously, congratulations on your success with BBC Radio 1. I bet it's massive for you.
Yeah, thank you. That's very kind of you. So sometimes I still have to pinch myself. I mean, I'm talking to you now. I've just come off air. I've been covering for Clara Amfo today, which is the show that usually does a live lounge 10 till 1, and I have to pinch myself. But you asked me about how important community radio has been for me. It's been really. I wouldn't be at Radio 1 now. I wouldn't be in radio if it weren't for community radio, because people from Lancashire, you don't think working class people like myself get into an industry like this. But there was stations like Preston FM, like Spark Sunderland, that really helped me. So yeah, I owe a lot to community radio, and I think it's a fantastic way to get in the industry and learn the skills that you need to work on the radio. It used to be years ago that a lot of people went to hospital radio, but nowadays it's community radio. And one of the first things I say to people is when they message me on Twitter or email me or ask me in person how to get into radio, first thing I say is find where your local community radio is and get involved there, because it won't just help. Community radio won't just help you on air as well. There's all sorts of things that it can help you with, and there's many benefits from it.
I know, I've noticed on Twitter that you've been getting a lot of support. A lot of your replies are very much people fans of you. I bet that's still a big change that you need to get used to.
Yeah, you do, definitely. There is a change, like you said, I suppose, as you can see as you step up, but it's still the same. If you're on community station, if you're on Spark Sunderland, if you're on Radio 1, it's still the same. You're trying to be relatable, you're speaking to one person, so no matter what station you're on, it's still pretty much the same thing. You're still the same you, and you're still the same BJ.
Fantastic interview there with one of the University of Sunderland's true success stories.
Jordan studied here and started the same way on Spark as a university student.
Yeah, I mean, he really is one of the most inspiring success stories that we as media students and tomorrow makers can look up to. I mean, who knows? Maybe one day we'll be where he is. I mean, that's if you want to be a radio presenter.
Oh, yes, definitely.
We could be on BBC if we want it to be. Anyway, that does unfortunately bring us to the end of the show. We've had some great interviews with some really helpful and inspiring people in the media industry. We hope you've enjoyed the show and have taken something away from this past hour.
Thank you so much for listening, and make sure you're following us on social media for more content.
Definitely. We hope you have a great today and a better tomorrow. Here's Panic at the Disco with High Hopes.